After centuries of wandering through deep space, humanity eventually built itself a home among the stars, a place they call Avalon, home of the Galactic Alliance of Humankind. But humanity faces a truly dangerous enemy that threatens their existence, an alien species known as the hideios. To combat this threat, children are raised to be soldiers, and so most only know an existence filled with war. The soldiers are currently engaged in a fierce battle against their enemies, a battle that, if successful, could turn the tide in favor of humanity. Ensign Leto, a 16-year-old soldier, pilots his AI-controlled mech named Chamber as part of the assault. The mission aims to destroy a hideio's superweapon, but it ends in failure. And as the Alliance orders a retreat, Leto, along with Chamber, is unable to escape and is sucked into a wormhole. We follow Amy, a fleet-footed and rambunctious teenage girl, as she darts through her surroundings. She finally reaches a massive chamber where a group of people try, without success, to dismantle Chamber, hoping to earn money from scavenging the parts. Amy is a postal worker, and as she delivers her message, looks on curiously at this strange mech that no one has seen before. Leto wakes up to find out that he and Chamber have been in cryo-sleep for 6 months, following their entry into the wormhole. He's able to observe the people around his mech without opening the hatch, and determines that the humans speak a language unknown to both of them. They use primitive tools, and even behave in a much more relaxed manner than anything he's used to. The pair are unable to determine what star system they're in, as their current location is unknown to any of their star maps. When all crew members eventually leave, Leto exits Chamber to explore and gather information. Unfortunately for him, Amy enters the warehouse. Startled and without thinking, the young soldier takes her hostage. And as Amy screams at Leto, Chamber continues to decipher their language. He's able to inform Leto that Amy is telling him to do terrible things to his own mother and some other stuff involving poo. As Leto runs through the ship pursued by the crew, Chamber informs him that he doesn't believe they're in space, as this vessel is not designed to keep its inhabitants safe from it. Upon reaching the deck, the young soldier is shocked to discover that he's on a habitable planet with breathable air and vast oceans. As he turns to look at the mighty ship called the Gargantia, Amy's pet flying squirrel leaps onto his face, giving her the opportunity to free herself from him. He tries to go after her, but is faced with armed crew members pointing guns at him. The young soldier summons his combat mech. Chamber bursts through the warehouse and hovers behind the young soldier, ready to engage. As the shocked crew members and soldier face each other, Chamber informs Leto that based on local star charts, they have landed on Earth, the long-lost birthplace of humanity, now entirely covered by water. Shocked by the revelation that they're on Earth, Leto looks on as the defense force of the Gargantia convene at his location. With the increase in the threat level, Chamber hovers in front of Leto. He wishes to neutralize the threat, but Leto refuses. Captain Rigid arrives, asking Leto and Chamber to identify themselves. Leto still can't speak or understand their language, but through analysis, Chamber does and is able to respond. Rigid learns that Leto is the pilot of the anti-Hideio's annihilation weapon called Chamber. They ask the crew of the Gargantia to join the Galactic Alliance as fellow humans in their fight against the Hideios, but the crew, unfamiliar with any such organization, remain bewildered. The captain believes that there's another pilot within Chamber, and so demands that the pilot show himself, asking her crew to raise their weapons at it. But to her surprise, Chamber informs them that he is unmanned. The following day, still surrounded by the armed crew and with crowds of curious people looking down at him, Leto crafts a small flute-like object out of what looks to be a claw. Chamber asks the young soldier to clarify his position of maintaining a stalemate when he could easily subdue them all and take control of the ship. But Leto suggests that it would be best to forge an alliance with them and gather information. Meanwhile, Captain Rigid and the senior crew deliberate on how to deal with Leto. They ask Amy what she thinks about Leto, as she's the one who spent the most time with him. She believes he isn't dangerous, and though strange, seems like he's lost in this place, even though when he was running away with her, he touched her butt. The scoundrel. It's decided that Amy should be the one to engage with Leto. And so the next morning, with everyone nervously watching, Amy brings Leto fried fish as a token of goodwill. At first, he's repulsed, especially when Chamber refers to it as a corpse. Despite initial disgust, Leto eats it to reciprocate her gesture. When she asks Leto where he came from, the young soldier points to the sky. Amy then explains the origins of Gargantia. Earth once frozen, later thawed into a water-covered world, leaving everyone no choice but to roam the seas with scavenger fleets that scour the ocean floor, salvaging any technology they find. Little ships band together until eventually great vessels like the Gargantia are formed. She introduces Leto to the ocean currents referred to as the Milky Way, bioluminescent plankton that create glowing networks across the ocean. And as multiple lightning bolts strike the Milky Way, she explains that Gargantia harvests energy from these currents for navigation and power. The following day, pirates ambush Bellows' ships. Amy urgently pleads for Leto's intervention. He instantly agrees, hoping to gain the crew's trust. Piloting Chamber into battle, they deploy precision strikes to mercilessly annihilate the pirates and their ships. Though relieved, the crew of the Gargantia looks on in horror at Leto and Chamber's unhesitating extermination of life. In the immediate aftermath of the battle with the pirates, Leto returns to the Gargantia, expecting a hero's welcome, only to be confronted by Amy, who, after finding out that he exterminated every pirate, angrily calls him a big dummy before leaving. The soldier is left bewildered, as rather than receiving praise, he gets chastised. As Leto ponders his predicament, Bellows and Amy hover towards him using a kite. Amy offers her apologies for being angry at him, which Leto immediately accepts, and Bellows offers him her thanks for saving her and her crew. The three have a conversation over a simple chicken barbecue, and this is where Leto learns that his approach to war and life is very different to theirs. Bellows tells him that in this world, human life is greatly valued, and it should only be taken if absolutely necessary. Everyone, even enemies, are intertwined, and in their own way, support one another and offer thanks, a word foreign to the young soldier. Before she leaves, she gives him a communication device and offers the local idiom, "Give fresh water to the one who catches the fish." Before she leaves, Amy asks Leto if he'd like to stay with them since he has no home to go to. He offers a non-committal response, simply stating that he'd think about it. The next day, lookouts discover over 30 pirate ships bearing the lobster insignia, the pirate queen Lukage's ships. While the leaders discuss strategies, including handing Leto over to the pirates, Bellows contacts Leto and asks if he'd be willing to help them. He instantly accepts. When asked why he'd help weaklings like them when he could easily defeat everyone, Leto replies with the words of Bellows, "Give fresh water to the one who catches the fish." They ask him if he understands the value of human life. Leto says that he does. And with that, the leaders of the Gargantia authorize his defense of their fleet. As the pirate fleet closes, Gargantia's defense ships open fire but suffer casualties. Leto pilots Chamber into the fray, but this time, his parameters of engagement is to avoid all human casualties as they effortlessly disable the enemy's weaponry. Just when they think victory is at hand, shark-themed mechs emerge from submarines, storming the Gargantia. Lukage surges forward in her custom-built Red Lobster mech. She leaps past their defenses and climbs the Gargantia, seeking to eliminate their commander. But before she can reach him, Leto and Chamber jump on her. The pirates' assistants latch onto Chamber and try to pull him down into the water. Chamber climbs effortlessly, spinning around while asking them to surrender. The pirate queen refuses, and eventually she loses consciousness as her mech's arm is torn off and she's slung far into the distance. With victory acquired, the crew of the Gargantia breathe a sigh of relief, and as Leto returns and is welcomed by Amy, he speaks their language for the first time. "Thank you." With the pirate threat over, we see a normal day aboard the Gargantia. Leto and Chamber are given a bill for the damage to the hangar. Amy strongly protests this, claiming it's unfair seeing as Leto helped defeat the pirates. But Commander Rigid insists that she isn't being unfair. Leto won't be charged for use of utilities like electricity and water, nor will he be charged the usual holding fee for carrying large cargo, aka Chamber. Amy asks the young soldier if he's okay with this, and Leto Ledo confirms that he is. Later on, with the use of Chamber, Ledo helps with hauling heavy cargo around the shipyard. Ledo's instructions to Chamber make the mech seem somewhat clumsy, leading to the foreman asking if Ledo can make it so Chamber receives orders directly from him. Ledo approves, and so as Chamber hauls the cargo around, the young soldier finds himself idle. With free time on his hands, Ledo carves the salvaged hideio's claw into a shape he can't yet identify. When Amy spots him, he gifts her the carving, which she decides would make a great present for her younger brother, Bebel. As the two walk through the Gargantia, Ledo asks if there's anyone aboard who'd have information about space, and so Amy introduces Ledo to Dr. Oldham, a very knowledgeable man who explains that most of Earth's old technology has been irretrievably lost, and he has no knowledge of space. When asked what Ledo thinks of how they live, Ledo responds that he finds their way of life disorganized. Amused by Ledo's assessment, the doctor suggests that it may be a good idea for him to have a conversation with Amy's little brother. Later on, the pair visit Bebel, Amy's bedridden but sharp-witted brother. Excited to meet the spaceman and his mech, Bebel asks Ledo what life is like in space. Hearing about their militaristic existence and their constant war, Bebel considers it a difficult life. When Ledo reveals that imperfect humans are culled in his world, Bebel offers a retort stating that though he may be imperfect, he's as invaluable to those who care about him as they are to him. Later on, as Ledo speaks with Bellows, a rainstorm begins, and the Gargantia community springs into action to collect fresh water. Ledo, for the first time, participates in communal work, helping gather rainwater alongside others. Soaking wet, Ledo agrees to return to Amy's place so he can dry off. Bebel recognizes the carved claw as a flute, and so he plays it, sparking an emotional flashback where a younger Ledo looks on at a child on a hospital bed playing a carved flute. The scene is followed by a coffin being jettisoned into space, and then Ledo staring at a now empty bed. The memory triggers suppressed emotions, causing tears to fall down the confused soldier's face. Deeply moved, Ledo asks for the flute back. The episode comes to a close with Chamber reminding Ledo that the mission to return to their fleet remains his priority, while Ledo reflects on the forgotten memories unlocked by the sound of the flute. With Chamber on standby, Ledo, with Amy's help, sets out to find meaningful work aboard Gargantia. However, his skills as a soldier don't match any open roles, and he feels increasingly alienated and useless. Whether it's the fisherman experiencing slow business due to the weather, openings already filled, or even clerical work that requires training, his search for work proves fruitless. Amy needs to return to her own work, and so Ledo decides to continue his search alone. He even asks the farmer, but when exposed to a mountain of poop, flees from the overwhelming smell. As the young soldier ponders his predicament, the fleet suddenly stops due to the calm waters. It turns out to be a routine pause in maintenance that's carried out when the seas are still. Non-essential personnel get a break, but repair crew keep working. Pinion invites Ledo and Amy, along with Amy's courier friends Melty and Saya, for an impromptu feast and party. They gather on a rusty ship hull that's used like a beach after Chamber lands on it. And as everyone gets into their swimsuits, the girls drag Ledo onto the beach for some fun. As they all enjoy a chilled-out day, a mechanical problem interrupts the leisure. The grill lacks power. Pinion has an idea and sends Ledo on a so-called special mission to fetch a special item from a nearby trader. Ledo happily accepts, seeing it as an opportunity to be useful. Meanwhile, Ridget contacts Amy, informing her that there's an issue with the sprinkler system and she'll need the courier girls to fix it. And so Amy, Melty, and Saya, along with Ledo, who Amy picks up on the way, have an impromptu glider race to the top of the crane. Despite having extra weight, with some quick thinking, Amy emerges the victor and the sprinkler system is turned on. Impressed by Amy's perseverance and ingenuity, Ledo resolves to complete the task given to him. He runs through an area of the Gargantia filled with interesting characters, eventually arriving at his destination where he passes on the note to an old lady. The lady gives him a box, which he delivers to Pinion, revealing a sauce that goes perfectly with the meat. Everyone enjoys the fun and peaceful barbecue. And as the calm seas draw to an end, Pinion and Amy reveal the party was arranged to lift Ledo's spirits as well as to thank him for his help with the pirates. We begin with Leto and Chamber having a discussion about the value of currency on Earth. In space, where he could purchase things like basic rations or even more oxygen as a perk, there was very little use for currency. And so, after determining how much he received as wages and what it could be used for, Leto falsely believes that he may have been overpaid. The ever-energetic Amy arrives on the scene and informs Leto that the Gargantia will be hosting a festival. She also states that due to a combination of perfect factors on the seas, there's now a great opportunity to catch an abundance of fish, and so it's a great chance to get work as a fisherman. Leto enthusiastically takes on the opportunity, but opts to use the Gargantia's mechs rather than Chamber, as he wishes to accomplish this task on his own. He pilots the mech, which are referred to as Urobuchis, and quickly realizes that there's no artificial intelligence aid nor voice commands available in it, and as such, the venture ends in failure. Chamber's request to take over the fishing task is approved by Leto, and as the vibrant festival kicks into gear, the young soldier is invited to lunch by Pinion. While the pair wait for their meal to arrive, Amy and her friends perform a belly dance as part of the celebration. Bellows also makes an appearance, sparking a contest to recruit Leto. Bellows offers the young soldier a place among her salvage crew, promising adventure and knowledge, while Pinion offers Leto a place in his own crew, promising big booty. When the meal arrives, Leto is startled by it, mistaking the cooked octopus dish for a hideio's. He draws his gun, ready to evaporate the tasty dish until Pinion and Bellows humorously reassure him that it's just harmless food. Chamber's fishing task goes poorly, as he's turned the fish he caught into paste, and so the mech requests Leto's help. With a better understanding of the task requirement, the young soldier leaps into his cockpit and pilots Chamber as they use the netting to gather the fish correctly. It turns out to be a big successful catch, and Leto's first real workplace contribution. That evening, Amy invites Leto for a quiet moment. When lightning strikes, Leto leaps into action, drawing his weapon and covering Amy. Amy assures him that it's a natural glow powered by bioluminescent light bugs. She agrees to dance for him alone, and we witness a shy and sweet moment between the two under the stars. The next day, Leto chooses to join Bellows' salvage crew. While working, a massive underwater creature appears which Chamber identifies as a hideio's. The young soldier abandons the salvage mission and rushes to engage humanity's mortal enemy. We begin with Leto confronting what he believes to be a hideio's. However, knowing what the creature is, Bellows tells Leto to stand down. But the young soldier is in the zone and determined to eliminate his enemy. The creature isn't a hideio's, but a whale squid. And as Bellows screams at Leto to stop, the soldier and his mech crush the sea creature into a pulp. Word quickly spreads around the Gargantia that the spaceman killed a whale squid, a creature feared and revered in equal measure. The people believe that killing one is a bad omen bringing impending misfortune. Meanwhile, Chamber analyzes a tissue sample from the remains of the dead creature, revealing that the whale squids share biological traits with the hideio's. And so Leto becomes convinced they represent the same existential threat, fueling his determination to eliminate all of them. Pinion sees an opportunity to capitalize on Leto and Chamber's ability to defeat whale squids. The scavenger aims to use Leto's strength to descend into the abyss, deep within whale squid habitat, where he hopes to discover ancient technology, the likes of which no one has seen in generations. Bellows' opposition of his plan reveals Pinion's personal vendetta against the whale squids, one of which killed his brother. Meanwhile, despite Amy and others urging Leto not to attack the sea creatures, the soldier insists on destroying them. The war and his hatred towards the hideio's is all he knows, and despite causing growing concern aboard Gargantia, Leto is determined to exterminate them all. As Pinion plots his next move with one of the leaders, later on that evening, a large pod of whale squids surface near the fleet and move towards them. Commander Fairlock orders all machinery and lights turned off, urging all to be silent to avoid provoking the whale squids as they pass through. And as the creatures approach, Amy rushes towards Leto, pleading with him to stand down, but he refuses. Captain Rigid appears. She draws a gun on him, forcing him into inaction as the whale squids swim peacefully past the dark and silent Gargantia. Thankfully, the whale squids pass without incident. But still fuming, Leto coldly rejects Amy's compassion, reaffirming his determination to destroy all the hideio's, even if it means leaving the Gargantia. Meanwhile, Pinion and Flange announce plans to secede from Gargantia to pursue their own ventures, including the exploration of the whale squid habitat. During the tense council meeting, Commander Fairlock rejects their request for secession, and as the argument gets heated, he suddenly suffers a heart attack. As Fleet Commander Fairlock lays on the bed surrounded by those closest to him, he opens his eyes one last time, handing the keys to the Gargantia to Ridget and appointing her as the new commander of the fleet. Despite her protests, he assures her that he's confident in her ability to lead and that when he sees her father on the other side, he'll be sure to tell him how well she's turned out. And with that, the commander closes his eyes, passing away peacefully. Meanwhile, Chamber informs Leto that he has now confirmed Earth's location in relation to their fleet. Unfortunately, their fleet is too far, and they don't have the technology to cover such a distance. When asked if an SOS can be sent, Chamber confirms that he's already sent one. However, it'll take over 6,500 years to reach their fleet. And so the penny drops as Leto realizes that he can never return to his home. As the late fleet commander's funeral begins, Ridget, believing that her duties as the new fleet commander are of greater priority, won't be attending. As she sits in her office looking at old pictures of her late father and Fairlock, who raised her after her father passed away, in comes Bellows. The salvager offers words of comfort and support, suggesting that Ridget not only trust in her own abilities, but be unafraid to ask for help from those she trusts. It turns out that Saya will also be leaving the Gargantia along with her grandfather, and even though she'll be sad to leave her friends, she's excited about the new adventure, and even more excited that Leto will be coming along with them, giving those who are departing confidence in their safety. The late commander's funeral is a moving communal ceremony, with each crew member placing a handful of sand into his coffin as it passes by. And as they prepare to release it, Ridget shows up. She offers her apologies for being late, pours a handful of sand into Fairlock's coffin, tenderly thanks him, and finally bids him farewell as the commander is released into the sea. As Ridget observes those who will be departing from the Gargantia, she turns to face everyone there. She states that just like Fairlock before her, she'll dedicate her life to the prosperity and safety of the Gargantia and all aboard her. Unfortunately, no one responds, making Ridget feel rejected. But just when Bellows is about to offer her support, one by one, the crew of the Gargantia speak up, offering to unconditionally cheer her on. Leto, still determined to leave, comes to bid farewell to Amy and Bebel. Despite Bebel's plea for him to stay, the young soldier is determined to leave and annihilate the Hideios, seeing it as the only way to protect Amy and even Bebel from what he believes to be the imminent threat of the whale squids. And as Leto departs with Pinion's crew and their flotilla pulls away, Amy silently looks on, saddened yet resolute. We begin in the Sea of Mists, the nest of the whale squids where it is fabled that no one has ever returned from alive. Leto and Chamber dive into the waters and are very quickly confronted by a very large shoal of whale squids. This is what the young soldier has trained his entire life to do, and so Leto attacks them, ruthlessly and effortlessly destroying any and all he comes across. As the young soldier fights below, Pinion and his crew release barrels of explosives into the sea to assist. They destroy all whale squids in the vicinity, eventually causing the remainder of them to retreat into an ancient underground facility that serves as their nest. In the aftermath, Leto explores the submerged, antiquated facility. He's very quickly confronted by an extremely large whale squid holding thousands of eggs. Initially apprehensive, Leto manages to once again effortlessly defeat it, noting that the combat strength of these hideios is significantly less than that of the ones in space. As they proceed through the corridors, they destroy all unhatched whale squid eggs in their path, eventually reaching the center of the facility. The pair discover encrypted data storage devices which Chamber is able to decipher and unlock. However, when asked to reveal the contents, Chamber says that the information is classified, and so he cannot release it to Leto. The young soldier asserts his rank, telling Chamber that as they cannot return to their fleet, he is the highest-ranking officer and can access any data found. Chamber agrees, and the files are unlocked, exposing secret projects, space elevators, wormhole drives, and human experimentation. The data reveals that during Earth's impending fifth ice age, scientific factions called the Evolvers unethically spliced human and whale squid DNA, creating a new species of human designed for space survival, where this faction hoped to escape to. A war broke out between the Evolvers and the Continental Union, first on Earth, then in space, and thus the war between the two factions began. The Continental Union became known as the Galactic Alliance of Humankind, while the Evolvers became known as the Hideios. The Galactic Alliance created a new narrative, burying the true history of their centuries-old war. As Leto tries to come to terms with what he's learnt, a humanoid baby Hideios appears in front of them, and as the creature curiously smiles at them, Chamber grabs hold of it, destroying the creature even as Leto screams at him to stop. The young soldier is emotionally drained as he realizes that his mortal enemies were and perhaps still are human. As the episode draws to an end, we head back to the Gargantia where Leto's absence is felt. And as Bebel plays the flute gifted to him, tears pour down Amy's face. The episode begins with Leto and Chamber returning to the surface as Pinion's crew celebrate the destruction of the whale squid nest and the opportunity to salvage the advanced ancient technology within it. However, Leto doesn't share in their joy and enthusiasm. Instead, after disembarking from Chamber, the young soldier touches the remains of the young Hideios that his mech destroyed, staring at the blood on his hands. As the crew continues their salvage operation, Leto struggles with his newfound enlightenment. The young soldier even sees the face of his late brother amidst the unhatched young of the whale squids that he annihilated. Meanwhile, Pinion pours out a drink to the memory of his late brother. When Commander Flange expresses his joy at the ancient tech they've salvaged thus far and what it could mean for the advancement of humanity, Pinion states that he has no intention of sharing his salvage with anyone else. Instead, he arrogantly and defiantly declares territory ownership, broadcasting to all ships that he'll sink any vessel that even comes close to them. Pinion's message is heard far and wide, and as the crew of the Gargantia listen to it, all are saddened by Leto's destruction of the whale squid's nest. The leaders of the Gargantia discuss repercussions and even the possibility of losing some of their crew who may be enticed by Pinion's new discoveries. Meanwhile, a pirate fleet attempts to strike Pinion's group. However, empowered by their newly discovered tech, Pinion's team swiftly crushes the attackers, who swiftly surrender, imprison their own pirate captain, and beg to join Pinion's fleet. The engineer accepts, believing that it'll bolster his forces and solidify his claim. As Leto sullenly sits beside Chamber, Pinion approaches him. He eventually convinces the young soldier to allow Chamber to assist them. He brings the young soldier to his feet, dragging him to a surprise celebration where Pinion asks the gathered crew to kick things off by kissing the shiny metal backside of Chamber. And with that, their celebration begins. Later on, as Chamber provides information about the biology of the light bugs, Leto, still reeling from everything he's learned, questions whether continued warfare is moral. Chamber responds with a hardline stance. The Alliance and the Hideios are too fundamentally different. One shed the weakness of humanity and thus abandoned civilization to become an ultimate species, while the other embraced humanity's frailties and, as a result, strove to improve mankind with ingenuity and technological prowess. And so he believes coexistence is impossible. As the conversation continues, a message pops up on Leto's feed notifying them that a soldier from the Galactic Alliance is nearby. And as the pair look upon an approaching fleet of ships, they see the mech of Leto's military superior. Commander Kugel and his mech are on Earth. The episode begins with Pinion's crew looking at a large fleet of ships in the distance, and aboard that fleet sits a mech that looks ominously similar to Chamber. However, feeling overconfident in his new weaponry, Pinion decides to frighten them by firing a warning shot in their direction. But as soon as he does so, an even more powerful shot is fired back at them. Meanwhile, Leto establishes communication with Commander Kugel and enthusiastically accepts the order to return to duty. Finally, the young soldier has found one of his comrades in arms and gets to become a soldier of the Galactic Alliance once more. He abandons Pinion's crew without so much as wishing them good luck, and upon his arrival, Leto is greeted by their leaders who treat him as though he's a god and then ushered into a room where he's met by Kugel's hologram. The commander informs Leto that he's been struck with an unknown disease and as such must remain in the cockpit of his machine-caliber mech named Striker. After listening to the usual mantra from Kugel about attacking the Hideios, Leto timidly informs his commander about his discovery regarding the origins of the Hideios. Kugel is unfazed by this, revealing to Leto that in the Galactic Alliance, most senior officers are somewhat aware that the Hideios were human. As such, he remains unwaveringly committed to eradicating their enemies and has been building this fleet to be aggressive and structured around a militaristic, cult-like society, aiming to unify Earth's humans under his banner as a god among them. Meanwhile, a diplomatic meeting with Pinion is requested. The engineer is surprised by the appearance of the pirate queen Luckage, who escorts him through the miserable-looking fleet and then into a room. Ever curious about devices, Pinion fiddles with the contraption on the table, eventually unlocking it. And as he does so, Stryker's hologram appears before him, informing the engineer that he has passed the test. The mech offers him the opportunity to join them as their chief engineer, where he'll have access to vast knowledge which he'd be able to use to create machinery and weaponry that'll advance humanity's technological prowess. Despite his reservations, Pinion can't resist the chance to get his hands on all this ancient tech, as well as the wealth it could provide. And so, much to the disappointment of Luckage, the engineer agrees to Stryker's proposal. Meanwhile, the assimilation of his crew is ordered, and with the choice to join or be destroyed, Pinion's salvage crew unhappily accepts. Elsewhere, Leto is contacted by Kugel, who briefs the young soldier on the next stage of his grand plan. The commander intends to engage in a large-scale operation to expand his fleet, and as the information is brought up on his feed, Leto is shocked to learn that Kugel intends to attack the Gargantia. Luckage confronts Pinion as he runs around the warehouse of Kugel's fleet like a child in a candy store. The pirate queen expresses her disappointment in how easily he was manipulated into accepting Stryker's offer, stating that he's got no balls. Elsewhere, Leto confronts Commander Kugel aboard Stryker, urging him to stand down and spare Gargantia. However, Kugel coldly refuses, asserting that if Leto truly feels an affinity with Earth and towards the crew of the Gargantia, he should enlighten them, and then gives Leto time to make his choice. Melty approaches Pinion with a secret communication hidden under a letter, and later on, as Pinion, Flange, and Melty secretly meet up to organize a mutiny, the trio note that for their plans to succeed, they'll need Leto's assistance. We find Leto looking down at a flying squirrel that has become comfortable around him, and as he looks at the creature that reminds him of Amy's pet, the soldier solemnly contemplates what he would lose if Kugel attacks the Gargantia. As the rain pours, Leto, Pinion, and his excavation crew get to witness a horrific display. The cultish fleet members callously cast the weak, sick, and old members of their crew into the sea in some sort of sacrificial ceremony to their new god. This act awakens Leto's memory of how his sick younger brother was so callously discarded. And so, haunted by visions of Amy and Bebel, Leto solidifies his resolve to ensure that such a cruel fate isn't visited upon them and the crew of the Gargantia. The young soldier meets up with his mech, and after much deliberation, Leto asks Chamber if he will fight alongside him to save those he cares about and stop the insanity of Commander Kugel and Stryker. His loyal mech agrees, and we see Pinion cheerfully standing in the background. Later, Leto asks Melty if she'll be willing to deliver a letter to Gargantia that'll inform them of the impending disaster. And although the distance is great and the chance of success low, Melty agrees to deliver it. The young girl climbs aboard her surf kite and sets off on her mission. Much later, we see the tired Melty flashing signals until the Gargantia comes into view. Relieved, Melty loses consciousness, and as she falls towards the sea, Amy appears to save her friend. Leto confronts his commander, and as they engage in a battle the likes of which has never been seen in this world, all who witness it see it as a battle between gods. The rebellion spreads as Flange and Luckage's fighters jointly assault Kugel's fleet. Stryker's speed and firepower overwhelm Chamber, but the young soldier and his mech do not know the word defeat. Pinion's cannon provides a critical opening, allowing Leto to latch onto Stryker's exterior, ram it into a tower, and breach the cockpit. To his horror, the young soldier finds Kugel's corpse inside the cockpit. The commander has been dead the entire time, and Stryker has gone rogue. We continue with the exchange between Leto and Stryker as the soldier demands to know why Stryker is acting autonomously. The mech replies that it is simply carrying out the final orders of Commander Kugel. Before Kugel passed, he designed the current structure of this vessel as he sought to create order through fear and worship, believing that by doing so he would eventually bring peace to this world and thus create a new Avalon. Stryker has taken this ideology to a warped conclusion, stating that as Kugel is no more, it is now the focal point of all aboard the vessel. All crew members are now its users, and they shall worship it as a god. Stryker asks Leto and Chamber to recognize and serve it as a god, but the pair reject its request. The battle continues, but Stryker's combat proficiency is 50% greater than that of Chambers, and so Leto requests a merger with his mech that'll combine their neurological systems. His mech refuses, noting that without Galactic Alliance medical support, such a merge will be suicidal for the pilot. The pilot tells his mech that they must defeat Stryker for the safety of this world and the honor of their own. Chamber finds Leto's argument compelling and agrees. The merge between pilot and mech is initiated, increasing combat proficiency by over 150% for 480 seconds before critical failure is reached. Back on Gargantia, Ridget uses the key given to her by the former commander to activate Heaven's Ladder, a powerful orbital mass weapon hidden in the old space elevator infrastructure aboard the ship. And as Gargantia's naval fleet join the battle, the cannon is fired, devastating Stryker's fleet and crippling them. Stryker changes target to the new threat, and Leto moves to intercept it. As the two continue their fight, a final shot is fired from the Gargantia, solidifying their victory. As Leto prepares for his final push against Stryker, he laments the fact that he will never see Amy again, realizing that for the first time in his life, he has something to live for. Alarm systems go off in the cockpit as Chamber refuses to allow Leto's further participation. He relieves his pilot of his military duties and ejects Leto from the main body of the mech. And as Leto shouts at his mech to stop, Chamber tells him that he is proud of all they have accomplished as a team, urging his pilot to survive and live a long life. The two mechs engage, and as they fight, Stryker states that Chamber doesn't have the authority to reject the orders of his pilot, and as such must reformat and reboot, to which Chamber tells Stryker to go to hell. And with that, Chamber grabs hold of Stryker and self-destructs, destroying them both. Many weeks have passed since the battle and Chamber's demise. We find the crew members of the Gargantia happily going about their lives. And as our tale comes to an end, we watch as Leto, Amy, and their two pet flying squirrels walk off into the distance, ready to take on the future together. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please smash that like and subscribe button to help the channel grow. And I'll see you all on the next anime adventure.